You guys are still logging in from all over the country. I appreciate that. Again, welcome to topic 8 or step 8. And as you can see on the screen today, we're going to cover the forms or the documents called the 411 and 135. And as I said a few minutes ago, even if you haven't been with us over the past few weeks, I'm going to be referencing back to parts of the MREA 4 models that Gary Keller teaches us about in the MREA book. And we'll be using pieces from those documents to understand just exactly what it is we need to be held accountable to in our business, and how often do we look at these goals. That's what we're going to primarily cover today. Let's just kind of go over some guidelines or housekeeping items really quickly, as we always do. We know paid participants are on this call, and we've had more and more market centers signing up for the Steps of Kellerization program. And I thank you guys, because many of you are responsible for sending out the word that this is helpful. And I've had many supportive productivity coaches that have told others about being a part of this program. So MAPS wants to thank you all, especially in advance, for this. I appreciate you. You are all muted right now, so all of the attendees are muted. I can see you. If in fact you are on a office phone, if you put your call on hold, you might be disconnected. Sometimes we have challenges with conference calls and webinars with that happening, and if that's the case, just log right on back in. If you guys during this course have a question, please go to your chat screen down in the lower right-hand corner of your box, and please type in your question. Please type in your aha, your statement, anything that you're having that you might need assistance with, because we want to help. If we need to get on a discussion about it, I can unmute you physically and we can talk on this call and everyone can hear you. And please understand that what you are sometimes too afraid to ask, somebody else might learn from. And I promise I won't use your name if you don't want me to. Okay? But we all learn together. That's what these webinars are so amazing for. And there are assignments at the end of each agenda. So at the end of each agenda, for each step, you'll find assignments that you can add value to what you heard about today. KW Connect courses, Agent Mountain courses. I have not begun adding the YouTube channel, but Keller Williams does have a YouTube channel where all of our videos are posted. And right now, you can find so much great information for Mega Camp that we just finished with a couple of weeks ago. So I want y'all to write that down, that you can log into KW.com, you can go to KW Connect, Agent Mountain, the Keller Williams YouTube channel, and you can type in Mega Camp 2015, and there's many, many things for you to watch if you were unable to attend. And the registrations for Mega Camp for 2016 are coming out. That is August 8th next year, and it's got a different format. So you can go to KW.com, go to the Events tab, and look up Mega Camp, and your information is right there. Please don't miss Mega Camp. You'll be sorry that you did, okay? So those are the guidelines of our course and a little blurb about Mega Camp. You all should have materials that look like what I have up on the screen. And just to kind of clarify, those materials are sent directly to your market center, and then your market center distributes those, and they're doing such a great job of that. I thank market centers. I'm thanking you right now for that. And that you'll either get the link via your email or via your website, or maybe they were printed for you, but the materials are available to you through your market center. And if you're not getting those materials, then what I would suggest you do is talk to the administrator of this program in your market center, which could be your productivity coach. It could be your MCA. It could be an assistant team leader or your team leader. So whomever is administrating this program, just ask them for your materials link, and we'll make sure that we can see those. Okay? I have the materials up on the webinar. Can you guys see this, or is the screen sharing not working? Is it working now? Can you all see? Okay, there we go. It clicked itself off. I had it turned on when we originally logged on, and for some reason it went black on me. Thank you, guys. See, that's why I need you. It takes all of us to do this webinar. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so here are the forms. This is actually about 3 pages in to the agenda. So your agenda page should look like this. A little bit about me, guidelines for the course, and then we're going to get into what we're going to cover today, okay? So we're going to go over the 411 here in a few moments. We're going to talk about what it is, how to use it, what goes on it, where do the numbers come from. We're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about the secondary form called the 135. And don't you love the numbers? Everything I think Gary Keller created has a number to it. Makes us think, right? What is it? How do we use it? What's the format? What goes in it? And have a pen and paper ready, because I'll probably have you do some drawing, because that's how we get into better learning at some point. You also have in your packet, we're going to finish at the end, as long as we have time, what we call the MREA quiz. And it's actually a quiz out of the MREA book. I'm actually going to give you the answers, so we're not going to stress over that. When people see the word quiz, they sometimes freak out. We don't want you doing that. And what we will do is, if we don't get to this in the end, then this is a great little quiz for you guys to go back and do on your own, do in a group, do with your productivity coach, whomever is helping you lead this program, okay? So we're going to go back because we're going to cover the 411. So let's talk about the 411. What is it? I'm going to pull up some documents really quickly so that you can see what goes on the 411 and what it looks like, okay? We go back to the top here. The Agent 411, let's just talk about the categories of the 411, and then we'll look at what it looks like here in a moment. A 411 represents 4 weeks of the month pertaining to 1 month of the year, which pertains to 1 year. So the 411 kind of looks backwards, right? 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. Okay? And we got to talk about what needs to be included in this 411. Okay? What is it that goes in this document? And these 2 pages I'm flipping back and forth in really quickly shows you that for every level, there's a different 411 category. So as an agent, if you're a new agent, if you're a single agent, and meaning you do business alone, you don't have a partner, and you aren't on a team or group, then you're an individual agent, and these are the categories that you'll pay attention to in your goal sheet on your 411. If you're an agent that has began hiring people to be on your team and group, then you're going to have some more categories to be looking at. You've got one more category there, because we've got to add people. When you get into hiring people, then it's time for you to add what your goals are for your people and how to keep your talent. And then you might be a personal assistant. So we may have some people on this webinar that are personal assistants, or inside the Market Center, maybe you're an admin, okay? A personal assistant even has 411 categories. So if I'm an agent hiring a personal assistant, this is what I would be holding my personal assistant or executive assistant accountable to. Team leader, I wanted you guys to see, the team leader has 411 categories. So the team leaders have 8 categories that they are responsible to with their operating partner and to their agent leadership councils. These are the things they're monitoring every month. There's a Market Center owner, which we call an OP, operating partner. They've got their own 411 categories and goal sheets. I wanted you guys to physically see those. Okay? So these are the categories. You might, because you can do this if you're looking at this on paper, you might keep these 411 categories out, and we're going to focus on the agent 411 categories just as an example today. So you might keep those out in front of you. And then I'm going to skip down into finding. And I don't believe this is it. I think I forgot to pull it up before I walked out the door. I'm going to go find that real quick. I was going to show you all something anyway. Basecamp. This is the information that comes to your Market Center through this format called Basecamp. Next week, we are off a week for colorization, so there will be no webinar next week because we're in between modules. We'll pick back up Tuesday, September 15th. So coming off of the holiday next week on the 8th, there will be no colorization webinar. So while I'm in here showing you that and going back to the forms that I'm looking for my document, I will find that. One moment, please, while I go find the document that I'm missing. I'm actually looking for my 411 document. There we go. These are a little bit cleaner copies, so this is more helpful. Again, here's the 411 and 135 categories. And I wanted you to see an example of what a 411 looks like. I don't want this to feel like it looks too busy. I want you to be able to see what the process looks like for having a 411. So at the very top, of course, we have your name, we have your annual goals for the year that we're in. And you can take your 411 and divide it up into different categories. This one looks extremely busy, and I want you to know that you can go to kw.com, you can go to KW Connect, Keller Williams University, you can go to either of those areas and you can download your own 411 action goal worksheet that you can actually fill in online. Okay, or you can be like me and do it the old-fashioned way. You can print it out and handwrite it in, right? You can do it many ways. There are different formats of what the 411 looks like. In fact, as a coach, the main thing that I want to see from agents that I coach or leaders that I coach are their business goals and their personal goals. And if they choose not to show me their personal goals, that's absolutely fine too. But we're going to focus on business. And so today, we're going to focus on business goals. Now, in the business category, it takes us back up to what we talked about a few minutes ago, and I'm going to go back and reference that here in just a second. You'll notice that this 411, and I'm going to reduce this so that we can have this all on one screen. You'll notice the 4 weeks are at the bottom. The 4 weeks are at the very bottom. On top of the 4 weeks is 1 month. And on top of the 1 month is 1 year. So that's where the 411 comes from. Next to where it says My Weekly Goals, I want you to write the words in activities. Activities are action items, whatever is better for you. Because these 4 weeks is what Gary Keller tells us to focus on. We focus on the 4 weeks of activity in the month to help us hit our 1 month business goal. If we hit our 1 month business goal, then we're on track to hit our 1 year business goal. So do you guys see how this speeds up from the bottom to the top? And I know this form looks really busy. I'm going to see if I don't accidentally have the other 411 out. But if you go to kw.com, you'll be able to see that there is a simple 411 that just references business. Okay? So in these 4 weeks, what in the world goes in those 4 weeks? I told you to write the word activity next to My Weekly Goals. And those would be things like under business, and remember we're focusing only on business, the activities might be lead generation, 3 hours a day. Right? Gary Keller tells us that we should start our day with lead generation. Lead generation. Maybe you've got an action items that you need to, in the first week of the month, you need to contact 5 for sale by owners. Maybe you need to call 5 expired listings. Maybe you need to do handwritten notes. You need to hold 1 open house each of these weeks. Whatever the action items are, and lead generation should absolutely be in every one of those 4 weeks, whatever your activities are that lead you to hitting the numbers for your monthly goals, that's what should be in those 4 weeks. Okay? I want you guys to be aware of that. I'm seeing questions pop up, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Okay? Now, let's go back to that list. The Agent 411 categories. Let's look at this list. So at the top of your 411, and I want you to write on this if you physically can. I want you to be able to write gross commission income, GCI. That's one of the first categories that's going to be listed on your 411. Okay? GCI, where in the world do I find out what my goal is for my GCI? It comes off of your economic model or your economic plan, which we covered a couple of weeks ago. And for those of you that don't know what an economic plan is, I'm going to help you so that you can catch up. Go to page 129 in your MREA book, and Gary Keller starts talking about what the economic model is. And in that economic model, you're going to find most of these numbers. Okay, so GCI comes from the economic model. The budget. Ooh, where does the budget come from? Well, the budget comes from the budget model, and we covered that last session. And the budget model is derived from what Gary Keller has gathered, knowing what average expenses are for mega agents. You can find the budget model on page 193 of the MREA book. The MREA book's kind of like our Bible, isn't it? So if you go to page 193 of the MREA book, then you're able to look through what does a typical budget look like? What does it consist of? Many of you that have a productivity coach or you're in some type of coaching through MAPS, you've already got these things laid out, or you're in the process of doing this. So this is like a review, I'm sure. Number 3, net income. Where does net income come from? It comes from the economic model. Remember, the economic model tells us what numbers we must hit. It's the first document you should create in creating goals, economic model. Number 4, prospecting and marketing. That comes from the lead generation model. Remember, in the lead generation model, we talk a little bit, and Gary Keller talks about it in the book. What is the difference between prospecting and marketing, right? Prospecting and marketing, and Gary Keller defines that on page 185 of the MREA book. He defines prospecting as active, marketing is passive. And we've got to have a little bit of both, probably more of the prospecting than the marketing, quite frankly, to affect our budget the way we need. But prospecting and marketing goals are found through the lead generation model. Number 5, listings, market share, and key area. Next to that, you might write listings taken or seller listings taken, whatever your language is. We have a lot of different language in different states because of state law. But listings taken, this comes from the economic model. One of the things the economic model tells us is how many listing appointments we even need to go on in order to get the number of listings taken that we need in our particular goal model. I am going to share with you that if BOLD is in your area, and there are many that are getting ready to launch in October, write that down, BOLD. Where is it? How do I get involved in it? Because BOLD is going to teach you how to be a great lead generating listing agent. It's going to teach you to lead generate for listings. Listings are the lifeblood of our business. And on your economic model, you'll calculate how many listings you need consistently. And you might write this down too. Ask your team leader or productivity coach for this form. It's called a listings needed form. That listings needed form helps you determine how many listings you need to have on the market at all times in order to reach your goals. So that's an additional form that's not in our packet. It is in BOLD, and it's a part of BOLD. and they teach you how to use it there. Number 6, number of buyers with contracts. So this might be, you might even rephrase this to buyers that you're working with, buyer contracts, people that you've signed up as a buyer. They've agreed to work for you. Some states still call it buyer agency, whatever you call it in your state. How many buyers will I be working with that I put under contract? You'll also find that in your economic plan. And then, gosh, number 7, education. Where in the world? You know, how do I know what education to go to? As you transverse through your goal sheet, as you transverse through the year, it's going to direct you where you need to go for training and education. In the 8-6 personal perspectives, one of the things that we talk about very consistently is as we get from working in that entrepreneurial spirit into a very purposeful spirit, we're going to hit our head a little bit on the ceiling of achievement more than once, and that's a good thing. Gary Keller calls that failing forward. And as Diana Kokoska tells us, we learn from our inexperience through failure, and that's what moves us forward. So as we move from being entrepreneurial to purposeful, we have to determine what courses, what classes, what education do I need to move me forward. Right now, in a heartbeat, one of the classes I would attend would be what Gary Keller talked about, called the 10 mistakes that top agents make. We heard about that at Mega Camp. I would say many of you and your team leaders are going to be putting that on the calendar in September. Be looking for that. If I'm an agent that needs to hire an assistant this year, I'm going to the class called Recruit Select, RS. Possibly go to Action, Train, Lead, Motivate, because once I hire someone, I need to learn how to train them and grow them at the level that they need to grow. Maybe Family Reunion is on my education hit list. Mega Camp, maybe that's on my goal list. So put the big things down first, and then as you move yourself through your goals incrementally through the year, you watch that training calendar in your market center, because it's loaded and not everything's for you. But go to the things that are going to move you forward in the category you're having challenges with. So let's say you get behind in listings. Your goal is to take 20 listings this year. Actually, if you look back on the worksheet we worked on, it was to take 30 listings this year. And maybe year to date you're behind by 5. And you know that you're not going to hit your income goals until you get those 5 extra listings, then I would be putting myself in a listing class. Anything that had to do with listings going into the next month, that would be on my goal sheet. I hope that gives you a great idea. Maybe you need to work better with scripts. You're not converting well in your lead generation. You're making the calls, but you're not getting appointments, or you're not getting referrals. Then I would go to a scripts class, and I would involve myself with scripts. I like to call scripts words that work, because it's not about our script, it's about our language that we use. You can change one word in a sentence, guys, and it'll totally change the outcome of that statement. We've got another group coaching program, and I'm having you guys write a lot down, I know, but if you go to mapscoaching.com, we have an amazing group program called Language of Sales. And that will help you with understanding how people hear you, things that come out of their mouth. You know, there's some things that we can change about ourselves, the language that we change, the tone, how we mirror and match people that are on the other line, that we move too fast. We can change those things through habitual practice. We can't change things like, you know, my Oklahoma accent, or my, let's see, somebody told me at Mega Camp, my nasally twang. Didn't know I had one of those. But we can't change those things, but we can sure change the words we use. Okay, so education, those are examples of education, and this company is filled with the value proposition of training. Okay, so those are your categories. And again, I want to reference that if it's time for you to hire someone, then you're going to add another category to your 411, and you're going to add the people category. Now, I'm gonna stop for questions before I show you where to put all these things, okay? So if you guys have a question, if you would, go ahead and post it right now. And like I said, don't be afraid to ask because somebody else is thinking it. Participate in this for me, and then we'll move on. And if you don't have questions, we'll just keep going because that's how we roll. Those categories that we just named off, everything from GCI down to education, all belong in this top section at the top called my annual goals. Okay, so under business, let's give an example. We're going to use from our economic model that we did a few weeks ago. The gross commission income that we had on that economic model was $181,818. So I would write in here GCI equals $181,818. I would write my net income being $100,000. I would write listings taken 30. Prospecting, I would write 3 hours of lead generation 5 times a week. Maybe I would just put the total number of lead generation hours that I need in there for a year. We do that exercise a lot in coaching. Instead of summing it up by day, at times we say take the number of days you're going to be working and then calculate your goal hours for the year. So up in the business section of your 411, you're going to have those 7 categories, and it's going to be your yearly goals up here in the very top. Where do you find the 411 in KWU? Good question. Inside of KWU, if you go to the workbook, the 24 topics, if you go to the MREA material, typically you can type 411 in your search bar, and it'll bring up tons of 411 layouts. In fact, in Basecamp, there is a Word document. We've got it in there as a Word document and as a PDF, I believe. So if you need a blank document from Basecamp, your administrator should be able to find it for you there, but it is in KWU. Okay? Good question. The 411s in KWU are hidden inside of the manuals. So just remember, you've got to go to a manual in order to get to the 411 worksheet. I've even seen some Excel spreadsheet 411. So if you guys are Excel spreadsheet kings and queens, then I'd say utilize it. I used to have one as a team leader that I used, and I could just change the numbers every month. Because here's what happens, and this is a great segue. Once you get your 7 categories put into your annual goals, then you can either take 1/12 of your annual goals and now create your January monthly 411, or you can use seasonality. You know, Gary Keller, actually John Davis right now is really using this statement. We want to create a company where there's no seasonality. Wow, what does that mean? Well, those of us that understand the growth initiatives through your leadership teams, we want to create a level of profitability that the market can't touch based on its highs and lows. What does that mean? That means if we stay in consistent activity in these 4 weeks, and we're accountable for the activities in these 4 weeks, our activities create our market. Our market doesn't create us. Ooh, you all need to write that down. Activities create our market. Our market doesn't create us. If your market creates your highs and lows of your income, then you're allowing the market to dictate your business versus you dictating your business, and you have no control. When the market has control, you have no control. And that's pretty powerful to think you have the ability to create your destiny. And it's all, everybody on this call, I want you to hear this, it's all due to accountability that you choose to have. Okay? So 7 categories for the year, 1/12 of your categories for the month. So let's say under listings taken, if we were supposed to take 30 listings in the year 2015, then the average of that would be what? Through 6 months of the year, we should be at 15 listings taken, right? So you would 1/12 that out. So every month you would have 1/12 of your 30. Now, Sherry Lewis, who teaches FSO, Franchise Systems Training, very often in Austin, Texas, and she is who's responsible for introducing me to Keller Williams in 1996. One of the things she taught me, and I hear her say it a lot, never erase, replace. Never erase, replace. So if you don't hit a goal, just don't wipe it off the map. You have to recalculate, maybe even recalculate your activity levels to get to the goal. The goal is the goal, guys. It never changes. We just have to make adjustments in our activities and possibly what we do in each month. So if I didn't get to 5 for sale by owners, for example, Monday through Friday of this week, then guess what? I still have the remainder of the 5 I didn't get to accomplish for the month. Maybe I got to 3. So now I need to take the 2 I didn't get to, and I need to move them into the next 3 weeks. Okay? Same thing, you know, when you go on vacation, you take a week off. So one of those weeks is going to be blank unless you've got someone working for you. So you've got to calculate, what do I have to do in 3 weeks versus 4 weeks of the month? Okay? So 7 categories goes into the 1 year. 1/12 of those 7 categories goes into each month individually. And then the activities that support those monthly categories are what goes in these 4 weeks down here below. Now, somebody may ask the question, well, Terry, how do I know which activities, how do I know what supports my GCI? How do I know what supports my net income? It's all driven from the listing lead generation that you do, the appointments that you go on, and the people you talk to, the properties that you close. It all starts with lead generation. I can't emphasize that more. It all starts with lead generation. So most of your activities in these 4 weeks are going to be prospecting, marketing, networking, doing open houses, going door to door, getting your drip campaign up and running, right? It's all those lead generating activities we've talked about. You know, in the lead generation model, one of the things that I encourage you to do when we talk about that is make a list of everyone you know, then make another list. Everyone that you know knows 5 people. We learned that from reading The One Thing. We learned that from reading the MREA book. You've probably heard it in your market center. Sometimes we ignore that. But make lists of local business owners, vendors, affiliates. Who can I ask for business? Who can I call and say, who do you know? Those are part of the activities that happen in this week. If you're within a productivity coaching program inside your market center, you guys are going to be held accountable to this, or you're already being held able to this. If you don't have a coach, seek a coach. If you need a peer partner to help you with this 1 time a week, then get a peer partner. Now, one of the things I said we would talk about is what's the accountability around this document. Gary Keller has his out on his podium. When you walk in, if you tour our KWRI headquarters in Austin, Texas, and you walk into Gary Keller's office, Mo Anderson's office, John Davis's office, their 411 is out. They see it every day. They're looking at it. It's reminding them of the things they need to do. And Gary Keller says do those things first at the top of your day. Do the most important things of your day, your top 20% activities at the top of your day. Most all of your day is done by noon. So you need to be looking at this a minimum of once a week. So at the end of the week, the beginning of the week, you need to go, where am I to my goals? What did I accomplish this week such that it's driving me to my monthly goals? What did I not accomplish that I've got to schedule in and get in the next 3 weeks. Here we are sitting at September 1st. We've got 3.5, almost 4 weeks of the month left, right? So we've got 4 months to generate amazing activities. Where do I need to put those activities? Those go on your calendar, by the way. So everything that is a goal, let's look at it this way. So I look at my 411 for the month of September, and I see 15 hours of lead generation a week. Then on my calendar, what does my calendar need to look like? My calendar should have 15 hours of lead generation blocked in it. That's 60 hours of lead generation a month somewhere on your calendar. 15 hours a week, 3 hours a day. It's in my calendar blocked off. Team leaders know exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about a time-blocked calendar. If you don't have those lead generations blocked out, you're never going to walk into the office, shut the door, and get on the phone, or write notes, or get out and go door knocking, or go do pop buys at businesses. It's got to be blocked off for you to do it. It's an appointment with yourself, and it's the most important, probably one of the most important appointments that you can have on your calendar in business. Okay, so 411, 4 weeks of activities, 1 month's worth of goals, 1 year, and it all is driven from what you discovered doing the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, and working a little bit with your organizational model, depending upon what level of business you're in. And it all starts on page 129 of the MREA book if you need to reference back on that. Okay? Now, before I move on to the 135 worksheet, because that's another format of goal tracking, actually a lot of committees use the 135. I want to give you time to post some questions or some ahas. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe you've heard about the 411 before. You've been in a business planning clinic and something didn't connect with you. And I do want you to write yourself an action item down and say, I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to play with this. I'm going to do a mock 411 so that I understand how this works. Is anybody using a 411 right now? I want a testimonial. That is working really well. And there may be some of you on this call that just got your license, you're new to the business, or you just came over from Keller Williams and you got 2 Keller Williams from another company and you're like, Terry, I don't even know what this form is. If there's anybody on this call, even if you're a productivity coach or a team leader, and you've used the 411 at a high level, and I would love to know how often you look at it and who's holding you accountable to it. And we'll give some kudos out to the people that are using it real quickly. Okay, I'll give you a second to do that while I go over to the 135 handout. You guys are quiet today. Okay. I am going to do something before I forget. I'm going to type my email address down in the chat screen so that everybody has it. It's very simple. It's Terry, T-E-R-R-I-E, at kw.com. So if you have questions, challenges, need help during the week, shoot me an email. I tend to return all of those at the end of the day for the most part, and I'll be glad either to connect you to the help you need or get you your answers that you need. Okay, this is where we might do some artwork. So if you've got a pen and paper, you know, or flip your workbook over and, you know, write on the back of it. What is a 135? Well, a 135 is just like a 411. It is an action goal planning worksheet. You'll notice at the top of this worksheet it says GPS. Well, how many of us have a GPS, whether it's on our phone, in our car? It tells us where to go. We plug an address in and it tells us where to go. There's nothing more easier now than to show homes with a GPS, I've learned. And remember, I've been in the business since 1983 when there was no such thing, and we had an MLS book, and we literally had to make a list and go driving around and find these houses. GPSs make it easy. Well, that's what this does. It's a mapping system to help you get where you need to go. just like the 411. Some people use this format just because their brain works better this way. I don't have any right or wrong. I'm just telling you guys, get your goals out on paper. Get them on paper and look at them, or get them on a computer screen and look at them that have goals. The way this works, we state the goal. So you have one goal. So next to the word goal, write 1. And sometimes I have you draw this out. I have you draw a big circle at the top of the paper. So if you're drawing and you're visual like me, draw a circle at the top of your paper and write 1 goal. That's what the 1 represents, 1 goal. Underneath that 1 goal, we're going to have 3 priorities. And if I scroll through this GPS, you'll see that it goes all the way down to 3 priorities. Now, what's a priority? Well, behind each goal, we've got to have priorities, meaning it's the first thing we've got to focus on. So your goal may be net 100,000 income, net income of 100,000. Your goal may be net 200,000. Maybe this is an income goal that's up here. Let's say you want to create an action plan worksheet for your big vacation in 2016. So maybe your one big goal is your trip to Italy, whatever that looks like. It's one big goal. Now we create 3 priorities. What's going to help us get there? Well, let's use this as an example. If my net income is $100,000 a year, then I know one of my priorities based on my economic model is that I get 30 listings taken. I know another goal is that I have to have 25 buyers under contract. And where am I getting these? From my economic model. So my first priority may be 30 listings taken. Okay? Now, what are strategies? So let's just write an example. The 1 goal is net 100,000 a year. My first priority is 30 listings taken. And underneath that 30 listings taken, the strategies are my activities. So just like in the 411, it's my list of activities. What have I got to do to get there? So under 30 listings taken, then I may need to write, I need to go on 38 appointments. I need to go on 38 listing appointments to get 30 listings taken based on what my economic model is telling me. Because Gary Keller tells us that we convert our seller appointments on an average of 80%. Okay, so one of my strategies or one of my action items might be 38 listings taken. Another strategy might be my lead generation strategy. That might be 3 hours of lead generation a day. However you want to state that, 15 hours of lead generation a week. Another strategy for listings could be that you're going to consistently market to a farm area, a geographic farm area. So you've picked out a neighborhood of 250 homes, and you're going to consistently, monthly, market to a geographic farm area. Do y'all understand where that's going? I don't want to go through every line and finish it out. Now, who helps you with these activities? Your coach, your team leader, training. These are all going to help you understand these strategies or activities. If you guys have not been in Ignite, I don't care what your production level is. If you haven't been in Ignite or Bold, Bold is not for new agents, by the way. It's for everybody. We have this misconception that Bold is for new people. No, Bold is for everyone, up to the $50 million producer. If you've not been in those programs, those are going to teach you the activities and the strategies that you have to set that priority so that you can get to your goal. So if you were drawing this out, you've got your big circle at the top, 1 goal. Then you've got 3 circles underneath that big one. And those are your 3 priorities, 1, 2, 3. And then underneath each priority, you've got a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that when this action worksheet is done, You've got the big goal at the top. You've got your 3 priorities laid out horizontally, and under each priority, you've got 5 strategies, 5 lists of activities, including 15 activities. Very visual. You know, one of the things we're taught in our company is to mind map. What does that mean, actually? You don't want my mind on a piece of paper, probably, but mind mapping is for a visual that you can look at every day. Some people take this 1, 3, 5, and they draw it out like I'm saying in circles, and they put it on the back of their door in their office, and they can't help but look at it every day when their door's closed. And their door's closed because they're doing lead generation, right? Now, how is the 1, 3, 5 utilized? It's utilized as a yearly goal sheet, number 1. It can be used in a committee, okay? So let's say inside of your Agent Leadership Council, the person that's responsible for Red Day 2016, they're creating an action plan worksheet. This might be their action plan worksheet. The goal is a successful Red Day, or whatever you're going to do for Red Day. Maybe you're working for Habitat for Humanity that day, or you're working in the local school, and your goal is to build a house or help with the building of a house on that day. And then you move that into 3 priorities. So priority 1, the number of people we need to work that day. Priority number 2, planning days, whatever it is. As you can see, you can take this into committee work. This is a great short-term form. Sometimes when you have a 411, let's say you created your 411 for the year, and you might spawn off of a 411 an action plan worksheet to get back on track with your listings taken. So the example that I used earlier, I needed to have 30 listings taken in a year, and I've only taken 20, I'm 10 off. Then what is my action plan worksheet to get me to 10? Maybe you have to break that down. This is really well used for committees, for teams, for groups, and for individual goals, even if it's just a vacation. So it could be that this plan spawns off of your 411. Accountability to both of these. Again, I can't encourage that more. If you don't have a coach, if you don't have an accountability partner, then I'm going to encourage you to get one. And that's nothing more than for someone to say, okay, what was your goal this week? Well, my goal was to take 2 listings. Well, how did you do? Well, I got 1. Okay, so where did you put the 1 that you didn't take into the future weeks? Well, I put it into week 3. Okay, awesome. What kept you from getting there? Well, I just didn't do enough lead generation. Well, how much more lead generation do we need to add to your week, to your day? Okay, that's accountability. That's holding someone able. That's not being judgmental. That's how do I help? How do we get it there? How do you think you should get there? And then looking at it each week. That's not so bad, is it? See, my job's great as a coach. That's what I get to do all day long, every day of the week. I get to help people be able to do their goals. There's no better joy than that. Productivity coaches on the call back me up on that, I'm sure. Okay? Any questions about the 135, the GPS? And again, you can go to KW Connect, you can go to Agent Mountain, Keller Williams University, and you can download this form as well. Okay? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions pop up, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to, whoops, wrong one. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our agenda. And we're going to do a review real quickly before we look at this MREA quiz. So the 411, today we've talked about how to use it, what it is, where the numbers come from, and then you've taken great notes around that about activities that you know you need to accomplish to create a 411. The 135, we've covered that, the GPS system. 1 goal, 3 priorities, 5 strategies for each priority. So by the time you're done, you've got 1 goal, 3 priorities, and 15 total activities. What is it? It's a goal planning sheet. It's an action planning worksheet. How to use it, we've talked about that. And again, the only way these two forms work is if you take the activities and get them on your calendar in advance. Get them on your calendar in advance. We call that time blocking. You can time block out your lead generation for the whole year. You can block out your vacation a year in advance. You can block out baseball games or trips or training that you're going to attend in advance. And then you get your lead generation in there. Remember, God's family business, so get those trips in there. I'm seeing no questions, so we're going to keep moving on. And I'm just going to have you pose your questions as we move forward. And remember, I told you this is fill in the blank. So I'm going to ask the question, and I'm going to give you the answer. Okay? So MREA quiz number 1, what are the 4 stages of growth on the path to $1 million? What are the 4 stages of growth on a path to $1 million? They are think, earn, net, and receive. Think, earn, net, and receive. That is on page 67 of the MREA book. Okay? Question number 2. What are the 3 L's of the millionaire real estate agent? They are leads, listings, and leverage. Leads, listings, and leverage. That is on page 97 of the MREA book. What are the 4 models? We've been covering those over the past couple of weeks. The 4 models are the economic models, the lead gen model, the budget model, and the organizational model. Economic, lead gen, budget, organization, and that is found on page 129. Okay? Question number 4, what are the 3 key areas of the economic model? Numbers you must hit, appointments and conversion. Numbers you must hit, appointments and conversion. And again, that's on page 129 of the MREA book. Question number 5, what are the 4 laws of lead generation? Build a database. So build it, feed it, communicate with it systematically, and service all leads. Build a database, feed it every day, communicate with it systematically, and service all leads. And that's found on page 133 of the MREA book. Question number 6. This is simple. Lead with revenue, not expenses. Lead with revenue, not expenses. That's found on page 154 of the MREA book. Question number 7, what are the 3 key hires of an MREA, of a millionaire real estate agent? So basically, when you get ready to hire, who's your first hire? Well, it's your admin, it's your administrative assistant. Then you begin to hire your buyer's agent and then your seller's agent. And where do you find that? Gary Keller addresses it on A Path to $1 Million, starting on page 197 of the MREA book. So admin, buyer, seller. Question number 8. What does RTCK stand for? It stands for recruit, train, consult, keep. Recruit, train, consult, keep. Okay? Gary Keller talks about this in the organizational model in the MREA book, so under the same thing we talked about a few minutes ago. Number 9, what is the 80-20 rule? That's the 20% of key activities. 20% key activities are big rocks that lead to 80% of the results. 20% key activities that lead to 80% of the results. That's on page 253 of the MREA book. Gary Keller says, staying focused on you, staying focused on the 20%. And he goes into that beginning on page 253. Number 10, what is the MREA energy plan? So what does a millionaire real estate agent do? They get all of their 20% activities done by 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. On page 308 of the MREA book. Page 308. And then the very last question, and these are fill in the blanks, right, or very last statement. Think big, aim high, act bold, and we have a class for that, right? Act bold and live large. Think big, aim high, act bold, live large. That's what Gary Keller encourages us to do. And there was one question I want to cover before I go away. I think you said could you cover the strategies again? I go ahead and type to me more specifically what you mean, but I believe what you are asking is, are those strategies activities? The strategies are the 5 activities you need to accomplish to hit the one priority. So if getting 30 listings a year is a priority, then what are the activities or the actions, the strategies I need to have to hit those 30 listings? And if that doesn't answer your question, please email me, Terry@kw.com, and let me go a little bit further with that with you, okay? And we are at the top of the hour again. That hour went packed and quick. So I'm going to let you guys go. This is recorded, so it'll be on Basecamp if you want to listen to it again. I appreciate you all, and reminder, we're off next week, and we'll start back September 15th. Thank you, guys. Have a great, great rest of the week.